In this ladder race, I go for a solo breakaway with 1 kilometre left to go. Can I hold off the opposition and take the win? Find out in this video. Hi all, welcome back to the channel. Today we've got a ladder race against Team Not Poggy. We could only field 3 riders from each team for this, and it massively changed the race dynamics. You'll see how this affects the race later on in this video. Both teams were evenly matched, although we did have some slightly better numbers when it came down to final sprints. With this in mind, we were just going to follow how Team Not Poggy race and just close down any of their attacks and see how the race develops. This is my first race with my new trainer. I've bought the Jet Black Victory trainer. The reason for upgrading is because my existing trainer was limited to 600 watts. This is really difficult when ladder racing, as there's a lot of short, sharp, punchy climbs where I was getting dropped by teammates due to not being able to output over 600 watts. And also I had no hope when it came to a sprint finish. Another benefit is the frequency of data transmitted to Zwift. This reduces the lag from when you put output into the pedals versus what you see your avatar doing. This has really helped in keeping up with the opposition. Okay, so here's the first climb. I'm quite apprehensive going into this due to riding on a new trainer. This is my first experience with virtual shifting, and I wanted to make sure that I was in the correct gear so that I can follow any attacks. Too high a gear and I wouldn't be able to respond as quickly. For the first part of the climb, with the decreased gradient, there isn't much attacks going on, and the reason for this is I think it's difficult to drop someone while they can still sit in your draft. For the second part of the climb, the opposition attack, and I'm struggling to hold on. I'm pushing over 680 watts, which is a power PB for me, and that's due to previously being limited to 600 watts on my existing trainer. I managed to follow the opposition up to the crest of the hill, and I'm just on the edge of their wheel as we get to the top. This is where I realise I've made a bit of a mistake with the virtual shifting. I'm in too low a gear, and as the gradient of the hill decreases, I'm spinning out and unable to match the power of the opposition. At this point I'm out of their draft, and as we approach the next hill, I'm really having to push to get back onto the group. Everyone else is pushing normal numbers, but I'm pushing red numbers just to get back onto the end of the group. If they decided to attack at this point, I'd have really struggled to get back on, so thankfully they were probably feeling it from the initial climb as well. Now that the rises are complete, the pace starts to ease off. This gives me an opportunity to sit in and get used to the new virtual shifting. Typically I sit with my cadence between 80 and 90 RPM. I've raced parts of this course before, and I know that shortly after this there's another kick up. As around this corner I see that the course gradient greatly increases, and I'm nervous that I'm going to get dropped by the remainder of the group. I put in a big effort here to try and keep with the group. Fortunately, or unfortunately, no one makes an effort, and I actually move to the front of the group. The effort that I put in is not enough to create some significant distance between me and the rest of the group, so unfortunately this effort is just wasted. For me, my biggest strength is my 20-minute power, and I've actually got the strongest 20-minute power in this field. For me, it'd probably work better if I sat on the front and stretched the opposition, allowing them to tire and giving us a chance for the sprints. But I'm not sure I've got the legs to pull all the way to the finish line, so I agree we should sit in and let the opposition do as much work as possible. Okay, so here's the climb. The gradient on this is quite small, so I decide that sitting on the shoulder of the opposition is probably best. That way I can react to any moves, but also I'm not wasting effort to sit at the front. Due to the size of the field and the fact that everyone's pretty well matched, it was seen that this segment was not a great opportunity to drop the opponents. If the incline was higher and the person behind you got less draft, then it would be an ample opportunity. But due to the fact it's only a 1.2% gradient, those trailing behind the leader are getting significant draft still, so it'll take a significantly higher wattage to drop the group. This portion of the race is all about being smart and trying to conserve as much power as possible. By sitting just off the shoulder of the opposition, we're in a great position to react if they do go for an attack, but equally we're spending less watts than them to travel at the same speed. I think this is good race tactics, and if I was feeling more confident, I'd probably be the one pushing and trying to stretch the opposition. But for this race, we sit in and we just see how the race unfolds. Okay, so we've reached the top of that climb with no casualties. I managed to keep a pretty good average power, and my heart rate started to come down, so it's not at too bad a level moving into the next segment of the race. Again, as we move into this part, we're just trying to keep up with their group and let them do as much work as possible. How this race is unfolding is concerning me. Although we're sat at the back and recovering well, the overall wattage is also pretty low. This means that they're recovering as well. For me, this isn't great, as I've got the lowest sprint numbers out of the whole field, and for me to do well at the sprint, everyone needs to be going into it tired. With everyone well rested, this means my chances of doing well in the sprint are pretty low. Before the race, we had discussed that the hill coming up would be a great point to attack if we still had the legs. As we get to the gradient increase, I put in a big effort and my teammate follows me. I keep pushing to try and create a gap between us and the opposition. As we get towards the crest of the hill, it really looks like we'll be able to make a gap as one of their riders is towards the back. I keep pushing over the brow of the hill, but it seems that the two opposition have caught us back up and have brought the group back together. As there's still some gradient increase, I still keep pushing on just to see if there's some tired legs at the back and maybe we can create a gap. Unfortunately, I've got tired legs and I can't really continue this attack. I decide as well that if I'm to try and break away at this point, there's still 10 kilometers left of the map. I can't do a solo breakaway for this long. With that in mind, I drop the power off and allow the group to come back together. At this point, I really don't mind the opposition sit on the front because I am completely spent and my heart rate's sitting at 175 beats per minute. I know that if the opposition are to make an attack now, I'd actually really struggle to keep on them, so I'm hoping that they're as tired as I am. I know that there's a repeat of the hills at the start of this race that follow in this latter part. With this in mind, I'm just trying to recover as much as possible and try and make sure that the opposition are wearing themselves out. As I get to the bottom of the climb, I realise that my legs feel pretty good and the rest of the field might be quite tired. I decide for this hill I'm going to put in a sustained effort and see if anyone could be shaken off. As we go up this hill, I keep pushing the power and I'm making sure I'm looking at the right hand side to see who's at the back of the pack. Unfortunately, it's our team, so I start to ease off slightly. I then start to see the opposition coming up behind me and realise that I may be subject to a counter-attack. I put in a high watts here just to keep with them, but I'm bearing in mind that my teammates are towards the back of the pack. I'm trying to slow it down just so that we don't get away from them, as we need to bring everyone together for the sprint. As we get to the top of the hill, the group remains intact and everyone's survived. I do think I may have done more harm than good here and damaged my teammates' chances of winning due to putting in that effort and making them have to work hard. As we get over the crest of the hill, two of my teammates are with me and I decide to put in a little bit of a burst to see if we can try and get away. This was definitely wasted effort as it wasn't high enough wattage to drop anyone, and also it was higher than required if we wanted to sit on the back. I've determined at this point that we've got to wait for the next hill, so I'm just easing off the power and trying to let the opposition take the lead again. I think the size of the field has really impacted the race dynamics here. With it being a 5v5, normally there's a lot of opportunities to race on the flats and try and get breakaways on the flats. With this being a 3v3 and everyone really evenly matched, the only place that anyone's done attacks is on the climbs. This has made these flat segments of this course quite boring, and it's really a game of cat and mouse and seeing who's going to take the front. Everyone's trying to really drop off the power as much as they can and recover as much as they can for an opportunity to push on a hill or a kicker. As I get more into Zwift racing and a higher calibre of Zwift racing, I am seeing that this is common across most race formats. The biggest attacks are done on the highest gradients. This is due to the fact that the opposition get less draft from you as you're going up a high gradient. I think this is the highest bang for your buck, as you either drop the opponent on this portion of the climb, or you make them work incredibly hard to keep up with you, reducing their chances of beating you in a sprint towards the end of the race. Another common tactic I see is the sprinters that just try and hang on the back of the group for the entirety of the course. They then take a gamble and hope that they can get a win when it comes to the sprint portion of the race. So that's the recovery portion of the route done, and we're now going to find ourselves some more kickers. Position myself well in the group, just behind the shoulder of the opposition. and I'm ready to make a move if they do. I'm not too worried about the first portion of this climb. It's quite a low gradient, and due to the rest of the race, we know that they're not going to really attack on this part of the course. This second part of the kicker, I am worried that they're going to make a last-ditch attempt to try and drop us, so I'm trying to just stay behind the front two. I also feel that I can put in a good effort here, so I'm ready to make an attack if the opportunity opens up. Okay, so I anticipate that they're going to make a move, so I put in a high watt attempt. I find that I move to the front of the group, and also my teammate does as well. At this point, I'm really trying to keep pushing on the power, because there may be an opportunity to get away here. As we're pushing on, I notice that their teammate is off the back, so I continue to push. We then find that we go into a downhill section, and I realise that we're not really going to drop the opposition at this point. So the group comes all back together, and there's one final kicker, an opportunity to drop the group before the last sprint. I'm putting in a big effort, and my position in the group doesn't move, and it just proves that everyone's putting in an equal effort here. I'm just trying to hang on now, and it'd be the worst case if I was to get dropped at this point in the race. Part of me is relieved to have got this far without getting dropped, and we're still in it when it comes to the final portion of this race. I do feel we've been quite passive as a team, and we've let them attack, and we've just responded, and it maybe would have been better if we'd have put in some attacks ourselves. This is Zwift racing though, and no matter how well you plan it, it is likely that it's going to unfold differently to how you anticipate. Sometimes it's better to be reactive rather than proactive when it comes to Zwift racing, and this is the tactic that we followed for this race. We've largely just sat on the shoulder of the opposition and reacted to any of their attacks, shutting them down where appropriate. At this point in the race, we're discussing in Discord how we're feeling and deciding how we're going to approach the final stages of the race. My teammates have suggested that if I feel good, I should try and make a breakaway before the end of the race. Timing this breakaway is important. If I do it too early, I'll get caught by the peloton. If I do it too late, it'll just become a lead out for the sprinters. At this point in the Discord chat, we're discussing at what kilometre I should go for it. And at the moment I'm toying with going on 1.2 kilometres. The speed of this race has really slowed, and it proves that everyone's looking to go for that sprint finish. At this point, I've decided I'm definitely going to try and make a breakaway at 1 kilometre. You can see where I'm looking in the camera, I'm looking down at the watts per kilo for the rest of the riders. I'm just making sure that no one's making an attempt to brake before me. Gets to 1 kilometre left to go, and I launch my attack. Get up to 700 watts as my maximum on this sprint, which I think after the multiple efforts in this ride, that's still pretty good watts. Continue to push up this gradient and try to drop the group. I keep on the effort up this hill, and I get some breathing room between me and the rest of the group. Looking over at the leaderboard, you can see that my teammates are actually off the back, and one of their riders is starting to close me down. Drop my featherweight power up in a last ditch attempt to try and increase the ground between me and second place. At this point, the Team Not Poggy rider has caught me up, and even worse, he's brought both of his teammates with him. At this point, I'm really at risk of being subject to a counter-attack. And that's when they launch their attack. One of their riders goes off the front, and I've got nothing left in my legs to keep pace with him. Unfortunately, it seems all I've done is give a lead-in for the Team Not Poggy riders, and my teammates are off the back, unable to compete for the sprint. I decide that I need to give it my all and try and secure second place, and hope that my teammates with the sprint can overtake 2 of their riders, and then we win on points. I give it everything and just hope that third place can't catch me. Across the line in second, and I can see that my teammates had made a valiant effort to try and get the points at the end of the sprint. Unfortunately, they just missed out, and overall, we lose on points. As you can see from my double-overed body, I gave it everything there at the end. It was a great race and a well-matched race between us and Team Not Poggy. Like and subscribe for more Zwift races and more failed lead-outs. Thank you, see you in the next one.